A very good afternoon to you, Mike, and thank you very much for joining us. I hope you are keeping safe and healthy where you are. Let's dive into it. It's safe to say that Siya Kolisi has been riding this wave of the World Cup triumph brilliantly.
Thanks so much for having me. Yes, I mean, you can say we're biased, but is it a surprise that he's the most influential player of the year? I don't think it is. And I think if you look at both his personal brand, we always talk about heroes' journeys, and heroes' journeys are really the most impressive and prevalent when there's been a rise, a potential fall, when you've come from obscurity or you've come from really difficult situations. And he epitomizes all these elements. And he's not just our hero, but he's a hero across the globe. And it explains why he signed with a company such as Rock Nation, why he's one of the most marketable players, not just in South Africa, but the world, and how he's giving so much hope to young boys and girls around our country and around the world in general.
Mark, with his value skyrocketing as it has since the 2nd of November, what has that done for the image of not only the Springboks, but SA Rugby as well?
I think there's been a real humility around Siya's leadership, and then that's obviously had an impact on the players around him, those that are part of the Springbok unit. If we look at the ways in which after each of the games in Tokyo, our guys would go to the four corners of the stadiums and they would bow to the fans and say thank you to Japan for having them. It contrasted with the English team when they almost came across as very selfish and bitter after their results. And I think that it's been a really good halo effect on the Springbok brand as a whole. And I actually was interviewed on ENCA a few years ago when SA Rugby was at an all-time low. And if you contrast where the value of the brand is now versus then, it's made leaps and bounds. And you'd say that it's probably worth a few $100 million more based on the success of the actual World Cup.
Now, you talk about how there was a time where SA Rugby was at its very lowest and that now we are what the world wants to be. You know, you've got South African football and South African cricket, who at the moment are not really looking that great. So how do they and every other federation in this country leverage off of SA Rugby's purple patch?
I think there's challenges with all sorts of administrations and all sorts of challenges behind the scene in various different sports. But I think what's been great from SA Rugby perspective is looking at the leadership that someone like Rassie has implemented, and the fact that we've given players the opportunity throughout our team to come through and shine. There's been some beautiful moments with Mapimpi and how they've teamed up on the wing and a centre perspective to showcase that there's almost like this commonality and this bond between the various different players. And I think that we really are seeing some incredible strides in the rugby space, in the 15s and the 7s, and it's showing that there can be some really cohesive units created regardless of backgrounds, shapes and sizes in all these various units. And for me as a South African, rugby is a space that makes me and my fellow countrymen and women proud, I'd like to say.
Mark, let's tap into your branding brilliance, and if you could just talk to us about the thinking behind brands flocking to partner with a Siya Kolisi, you know, perhaps a Faf de Klerk, who of course was one of the superstars in that dressing room at the World Cup final, and perhaps the benefits for these brands when they partner with superstars such as the Springboks.
There's obviously been a huge growth in the space of what's called influencer marketing, and that's when you as a brand, you tap into a synergistic character. Influencer marketing is something that's been around for centuries, in the sense that you can remember back in the day when you would put your underwear brand on a model on the billboards. Nowadays you actually have digital billboards in the space of influencers, and who's a greater sports star and who's a greater influencer than an actual sports star, especially with a lot of these individuals playing in Super Rugby, playing in Australasia. They're not just South African heroes, now they truly are global heroes. If you look at Japan and how they're signing up a lot of our players, individuals such as Mapimpi going overseas to play in Japan, it's a great opportunity to show youngsters out there that there is value in playing sport and how it unites a nation and it can bring commercial success on a global scale. So for me, that's the short answer, is that sports stars are the ultimate influencers, and they're a great horse to back if you're wanting to put your brand and associate it with a relevant individual who plays sport.
Mark, thank you very much. We're going to leave it there. He is the co-founder of matchkit.com, is Mark SHARMAN, just talking to us about what is now, you know, the very attractive brand of Siya Kolisi and SA Rugby and the Springboks. And of course, Siya Kolisi being rated the most influential rugby personality in the world by Rugby magazine. That is where we're going to be leaving it for the moment.